Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Enigmatica 6 Expert. This will be episode 3. I am back from doing my holiday activities. I worked all Thanksgiving and spent a lot of time with my family. I've been doing a lot of other working as well. I've been doing a lot of personal stuff as well. So, just glad to be back, wanting to put out this episode. I had filmed this one pre-Thanksgiving, so didn't really remember too much that was going on, but I gave it a good old look-see, got my notes down, and here we are. So, looks like we're working towards our smeltery and doing our smeltery stuff, and all of that will be fun, honestly. Right now, I'm looking at what I need, grabbing the books that I need, and stuff like that, giving myself a little bit of a refresher on what Tinker's Construct has to offer. And at least in this pack, since how modified it is, I really do need that refresher as much as possible. So, I'm looking through a few things, getting my bearings, seeing what I have to do, and seeing what I want to do right afterwards. But it seems like with the smeltery controller, I'm going to need a magma crucible. Magma crucible requires uranium, meaning I need to go get myself a little bit of uranium. Uranium can be found at a certain Y level. If I remember correctly, uranium can be found around 24 and 45 Y level. I knew where Patch was at, so I and mined some of that. Right here, I'm just gathering a little bit of iron and redstone and other stuff while I'm down here, just to refresh on my ores. Put on the silver nail, apparently, and gathering the things that I need. Here in a second, I'm going to go back up and look at these Tinker's Construct books because it has been a while since I've done anything with Tinker's Construct. It is one of my favorite mods, with the little mini-sode that I output right before this. I had given myself just a little bit of time just to explain the concept of it and really get into depth into these other tools that you can be making, because Tinker's Construct you can get really in depth with, and with this version of Tinker's Construct there's so many tools and other things that you can be making with it. I just want to get into all of it. There's so much that you can do with it, and so getting this little refresher in and getting the things that I need to get prepared to make this smeltery is the ultimate goal in this. I will be doing a little bit of building, and a little bit of planning out on what I want to be building afterwards, because there's a lot of building to be done, yet I'm not sure if I want to do it all on camera, because a lot of building will be done, yes, but even then it will be massive building, and I'm not sure if it will be too fun to watch, at least. But I can always get feedback. We can always see what happens. I do plan on just leaving this one out and seeing how the building style goes with this, because I've done a lot of planning with this one. I had a lot of thought going into all these builds that I plan on doing. Right here, I'm looking for some other things and just working towards that magma crucible. At this point right here, I start making the Tinker's Anvil, and the Tinker's Anvil just allows you to add more modifiers and abilities and traits to your tools whenever you want to add more, add more stuff to it. Um, so essentially, what you can add will be like stuff like luck and haste and experience gaining and a whole bunch of other stuff that we will get into here in the next episode or the episode afterwards. Um, I do want to set up a lot of create stuff here soon as well. That is the plan for the next episode, honestly, because the getting into these create machines and all this other tool making and machine processing will get us to the next stage, which will allow us to get into a lot more of these other mods and a lot more of these other more complex aspects of this mod pack. I decided to make my Tinker's Anvil out of Tinker's Bronze, which is just made out of copper and glass. Very simple, very easy to make. Just requires 3 blocks. 3 blocks will make the anvil, and the anvil will allow us to add more of these modifiers, like I said, to our tools. The first modifier I decide to add to my pickaxe will be luck. Luck is basically fortune, and with each varying tier you have to add different items to get to the next tier. And as I'm looking for how to make the golden carrots for the next tier, I realized that I really do need to get into the smeltery and stuff like that. This is just me getting off track and forgetting that I have to make the smeltery and start building and stuff like that. So at this point, I start making the magma crucible and start getting everything slowly ready to start making the smeltery controller so I can start building the entire smeltery multi-block, which is a pretty simple one to make. The way I make it in this video is very big and kind of overkill, but I also do intend to use all that space and stuff like that for making various metals and making various tools and stuff like that for different kinds of adventures and stuff, different tools for different occasions. And we'll get into that whenever we do. Whenever I do that as well, I want to start seeing what I can do about getting into Tetra, because Tetra is also a very great mod to work with. The one mod I haven't worked with at all and heard very, very good things about, and just explaining it to me and having to work with it are two different things. So I plan on doing both, even though I prefer Tinker's a lot more. So in this process of making the magma crucible, it's just taking a little bit. We all know these crafts take a long time to work with, but even then, they're so rewarding in the end. I plan on upgrading this little machine that we have right there here soon whenever I start making these farms for the next episode, because a lot of these create machines will be moved and just put in different places for different occasions, because a lot of this stuff can be cleaned up. Right now I just have everything sort of anywhere as long as it goes somewhere and it fits, it sits, I guess. But I'm very big on organization and organizing and kind of laying out where everything should be going. So once we get into the next episode, we'll start getting into bigger builds and starting to, start organizing our little area right here. But as we work on this craft, we're just gonna sit here and get through it, because after we start making this magma crucible will allow us to make that smeltery. And I do end up using all bricks. There is a smeltery glass that you can use as well to be... Oh, yeah, I forgot. I died there. I had that in my notes right here as well. So, yeah, I just died, but here in a second we'll have that magma crucible done so we can smelt that copper and melt it down so we can make the smelter controller and progress in our way. And here we go. There's the magma crucible that we so need. Plop it down with a little wiring right there. We do have to craft the faucet and the basin. I get confused here for a second. I'm trying to figure out if I can use the table or the basin, but I do end up realizing that it is the basin that we end up using. Oh, we got another creeper blow up. It's a good thing we have enough dirt to patch up this entire hole and get our movement going. Alright, and this is where I start making my smeltery controllers so we can start working on our big old forge. And after we get this all done, we end up having to go mining just for a little bit too. I mean, mining is a big basis of the beginning of this mod pack, and trying to find things to melt and finding ores to be able to use for our smeltery is a big thing to get into. So right here, I get a little bit of food in me before I end up trying to go mining, and just start putting stuff away, putting things down, a little bit more food, make sure I heal before I go in. I decide that I need to start working on building materials, and I failed that jump. One of the worst jumps that I've had. Almost get killed by a skeleton, end up running way down into the mine, grabbing a little bit of lava, because what I'm going to attempt to make right now is a cobblestone generator. With this mod pack, you can create specific cobblestone generators for different types of stones. There are a few stones that I prefer here in this mod pack, and I am aiming to get those stones at first. So right here I end up starting to make the cobblestone generator, but to get all these different types of stones you need to put an iron block down on the bottom, and it'll generate just a random type of stone every single time. And the two that I choose out of all this is Dulcite Cobblestone and Gabbro Cobblestone. Those stones are two of the most decent looking ones for the builds that I want to build, and they do have a little bit of a sentimental meaning to them as well, especially the Dulcite. Whenever I was doing my first playthrough in this mod pack, I was doing a lot of building, and Dulcite Cobblestone just spoke to me in a different way. It just has that red hue, and especially when working with cherry wood, it just blends in really, really nice. Yet, I do not have the proper cherry wood that I was wanting to work with. But even then, the cherry wood that we're working with here in this biome is decent enough. And here soon, I'm gonna go to venturing in and see where I can get more of this other cherry wood. I might just replace some of the build stuff that I end up building here in this episode with that other wood whenever I do find it. But for now, I'm well unaware of the other stuff, so I do end up getting some of this andesite cobblestone as well, because andesite can be used for a lot of this andesite machinery, for all this create stuff that I'm gonna have to attempt to make. And here right now, I'm just looking towards getting all this cobblestone so I can make these builds and start building a whole bunch of stuff. Right now, as I start mining this cobblestone, I start looking for ways to make the cobblestone attract towards me instead of having to go in the middle of that and not be able to gather all the cobblestone out of this. So I start working on making a flux magnet, which is basically just a magnet attractor that attracts all the materials towards you, and it can be activated and deactivated, and it just uses a little bit of power it with some RF, and it will do that for a certain amount of items. I'm assuming, I didn't really look too much into it, but you can also put it in as a charm, so you don't have to hold it on your person. You can just put it on you, and it will attract all the items towards you. As I start mining all this cobblestone, I start to figure out a way to be able to auto mine. I don't have an auto clicker installed. I just use my mouse and a hair tie because I have long hair. I do have some pretty long hair, so I just used a hair tie. Put it down, make sure I have it, and just let it roll. But I'm also trying to maximize my cobblestone intake because sometimes the cobblestone will fall into the lava, and whenever that happens, you will have some loss. So here's me trying to find the auto clicker that I try, but even then I just make a little cup whenever I have all the cobblestone, again using my hair tie and stuff like that. I'm just letting it run, letting it rock and roll while I sit around and maybe watch some videos on my phone. But now that I have all that all sorted out, I am ready to get started on building here in a second, and giving myself a little bit more inventory room. I'll end up giving a cut here because the build that I do is just a small little platform to where I can put the actual build on. I decided to elevate everything in this mod pack because a lot of these mobs are very strong. A lot of the infernal mobs that get spawned here and there will attack you, and it's better to have the high ground whenever you can. So here's that first initial cut here in a second, and we'll get to building. Get to start building our smeltery as well. There we go. Oh yeah, I end up getting a little bit more dacite cobblestone before then. Alright, and there's our cut. Now I have a little bit more dacite, I have more building materials, I got more gabbro, and I have my platform set up. And now that we have the platform set up, we're gonna start building our build. I end up going for one of my older build designs with blacksmith because we start we're starting to build our tools, and one of my favorite things in Minecraft to work with would be the metals and the ores and everything. And so making a blacksmith house was the always the first thing on my objective list, because it's just really nice. I just liked organizing all my ores, gathering all the materials, being like a barter in some sort of way, and just forging tools and stuff. And so here we are with our first build, and I'll just let it play some music, and just let it go. So right here, I am starting to work on my smeltery. Originally, I was thinking about going for the smaller 3x3 design, but since I have so many smeltery bricks and I have access to make some more, I decided to go for a 5x5, or I think this is a 7x7. No, it's a 5x5. And it's just a really big smeltery because I make it double, 2 stories high, and I just put a lot of work into it because I do plan on smelting a whole bunch of these ores and keeping them in there and making a whole bunch of alloys to make tools and a lot of other stuff, and being able to make all that stuff is really fun. It's not that hard. All you need is the smeltery controller, the smeltery drain, a smeltery input, smeltery output, and some smeltery tanks. Or what I like to use are these smeltery fluid gauges, which can hold both lava and ingot fluid, or molten ingots, there we go. But I use it for the fuel aspect of it, and it just holds 4 buckets worth, and it looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And so here's me starting to build the smeltery, trying to figure out a good design. I forget how to make the smeltery myself here for a second, because I made myself a second smeltery controller thinking that I can attach it to the second story and it will be the same smeltery controller attached to the same smeltery, but even then that didn't work, so I end up using it as decoration. Here's me making the trains and the item input and output and attaching it to the smeltery here, but it doesn't end up staying here at the bottom. It's just me figuring out if it will work and seeing how to build it, because again, I need a little bit of a refresher on all this stuff myself, so I end up refreshing myself right then and there on the spot. Well, as I start sitting here and making all this stuff, I will just play some music and let it all pan out as I start building the rest of this smeltery and start building the rest of my house too. So I hope you guys enjoyed some Christmas music. Happy holidays. Christmas is just around the corner. There are all these other holidays coming out, so whatever you celebrate, whatever you do, I just end up putting some Christmas music. So I hope you enjoy. Just a little side note, I am just tearing out the floor and putting in the cobblestone. I'll be doing this for most of these undersides of these platforms. I end up using a lot of the space under them, and being able to have a solid ground rather than underground is better. But here it is, just me tearing it up and putting down some gabbro cobblestone, and back to the music. Right here, I'm going down into my little mine area so I can get myself some lava to start out with this new smeltery that I'm making. I end up getting all this stuff filled up and take it back up to the surface. I'm so glad that I found this little patch of lava so close to my base. And there's the smeltery complete. Now that I have everything set up and ready to go, I end up putting down my basin and my table, putting down the channels, and setting up for ore smelting and processing in there. But I won't be using that for my actual ores, since I can easily do the other method, which outputs enough ores. I just have to set up these machines and create and start crushing my ores instead of milling them. But for now, I just have the mill. Maybe next episode, after we set up the farms and everything, we can start setting up these smaller or these bigger Q8 machines. I do put up a similar setup downstairs from the one I did upstairs, just so if I am downstairs and I don't decide to go upstairs, I can still do everything from down there, even though I have everything like the controller upstairs. But it all depends. I still got to see where I'm going with it, but I do got to finish up this other build as well. So now that the smelter is complete, I plan on getting a lot of this other build done as well. Alright, and here I am working towards making or getting some rice and making a rice farm for some of my building materials. I am working on the roof here in a second, and here in the next episode, I'll go more in depth on how I want to do these farms and how create will be a little bit of a bigger process in most of these farms. Um, I'm actually coming back after a few weeks, recording that last part and everything. Um, I've just been really busy and been swamped with work, getting my schedule back in order, and getting my apartment furnished. So there was a little bit of a gap between this part of the recording and the last part of the recording. So I'm getting my bearings real quick. But more or less, I'm building this roof and trying to get my farm started up here in the next episode. I absolutely love these frame blocks. One of my biggest buildings inspirations usually come from these frame blocks. And me working on this roof kind of is a little bit it's a little bit off, but I end up getting my bearings with the roof here in the next part. I just whenever I was first working on this roof, I thought I had a good general idea, but it had been a while since I'd worked with these frame blocks, so I fudged it up in the worst way, but it's okay. You know, we all go through these building pains and building processes after not playing the game for a little bit. And me being a modded builder as well kind of just makes it a lot more tedious because I get really in the I get really in depth on all this stuff. So I I enjoy building a lot, and especially in modded building, it's really fun. I really like building in modded Minecraft. I usually tend to look at all the blocks and items I can use to further improve my builds and everything, and try to build the best I can. I used to build a lot of vanilla builds back whenever I was younger, and you know, I don't know. I just really love building. A lot of my modded experience comes from progressing really, really quickly and then being able to build whatever I can, or just playing with someone else and having them do most of the work while I do all the structural design stuff like this. I have a friend that I used to play modded with and still do play modded with. Um, and, you know, he's one to. Oh, look at that. I think I was out getting something. I forgot what I was grabbing. Oh, some straw for the roof, and I almost died. Um, yeah, I was just foraging for straw at this point, and I run into a village right here. See that there's a village. Kind of explore it. There's a little battle tower looking thing right there. I decide, hey, why not? And decide to just conquer it, go inside, see what's inside, and, you know, just look through everything. I think at the top of this is a waystone, and so you can use this as a little marker or template to come back to. I end up just taking the waystone and just taking it with me. But eventually I end up reaching the top here in a second. There is some pretty good loot in some of these towers, and you know, can't really pass it up whenever you're in a hardcore pack like this. Whenever everything's kind of a lot harder than usual. A few little gold blocks that I take and see if there's any more hidden chests somewhere. Take whatever loot I can get and, you know, break it all down. Break it all down. I take some of these heads because Apotheosis is a mod used for enchanting your tools higher than what you normally could. And I like Apotheosis a lot, so I try to get into it whenever I can. I think the mod precursor to Apotheosis was Zenith, if I remember correctly. And I remember back a few years back, I used to play with Zenith a lot. My mod partner usually got into it a lot more than I did, though, and he would show me all the tools and weapons that he made with all these really big old enchants and stuff. So, right here, I find a apotheosis tower. These apotheosis towers also have like enchant books and little spells and stuff, and you got to be careful because that chest right there will activate the TNT on the bottom and will kill you. Done it a few times before. I remember whenever I was first playing around and found one of these towers, I opened the chest without even thinking about it, even though it said trap chest at the top. There's a little ruined portal right there that I don't check out just yet. I end up checking it out maybe in the next episode. I forget. But there's a lot that I have done between this episode and the next one that's coming out, solely
Yeah.
because I just ended up doing a lot of building stuff. I think right here I died too.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. I jumped right into that ravine. A big old death right there. Still getting chased by zombies and such. Creeper. But I eventually just make it out alive. At least this time. But here in the next second, I will be finishing the build, getting that roof finalized and ready to go. But here, I'm just gonna let the music take off, and you know, I guess I'll see you in the next episode. Here's to that build, and here's to a good next episode. I'm glad I'm back. Hopefully, here soon, you guys can see my mod pack development, the things that I've been doing on my mod pack that I've been working on. Here soon, I hope to be also recording some live stuff, maybe streaming here and there. I'm not sure how much I will be streaming because of my job. And then I also want to post some IRL stuff like my cooking and everything that I do with my job. More or less, not what I do at work, but I love to cook and I would love to show you guys my cooking as well. So, here's to the next 10 minutes of just building. If you stick around, thank you very much. But if not, I'll see you in the next episode. See ya.